the yoga of the king, the yoga of the spirit's freedom and greatness. This knowledge first he had of time-born men. Admitted through a curtain of bright mind that hangs between our thoughts and absolute sight, he found the occult cave, the mystic door, near to the well of vision in the soul, and entered where the wings of glory brood in the silent space where all is ever known. This is the goal of the yoga of knowledge, because in the previous canto, with the secret knowledge, he speaks of the whole play of manifestation, the transcendent, the universal, the individual, and it has come down, the divine has come down, that Godhead's seed might flower in timeless space, in mindless space. That the purpose of the divine having come down, so that this earthly life, which is unconscious, is actually the starting point of a new growth of consciousness, a new manifestation, Godhead's seed might flower. And that is the whole purpose of existence, that the seed has to flower. The possibilities are latent in the unconscious. They have to grow into their own fullness. This knowledge he had, that in the unconscious, the supreme consciousness is hidden. Usually this is something that the mind does not accept, that in the darkness, in the unconsciousness, the light is hidden. It is believed that you give up the world of mind and thought and consciousness on connection with the world around in order to withdraw into another level of existence which is beyond. Instead, he said, it is within. The presence of the divine is within. Mind doesn't believe. Mind says the divine is above. We have to stop our physical, vital, mental existence and withdraw to that higher level. This knowledge he had, that it is not so. Doesn't have to be like that. The mortal has the ability, the time-born man has the ability to connect with the eternal. Admitted through a curtain of bright mind, that is the whole problem. Mind is our own guide for a long time, the guide of light. But this light, especially for one who has knowledge, who is wise, who has studied philosophy, who has studied science, that mind has acquired such a strong sense of self-importance. It is bright, it is clear, but it has forgotten that it is limited, or it doesn't even know that it is limited. It blocks the direct connection with the light. Mind is always working out the truth through all kinds of formulas, all kinds of equations, all kinds of explanations. This mind has to be pushed out. The stronger the mind, the more difficult it is to push it away. Here is, the mind has been a helper earlier. Now it is time to put it away. It has to be replaced by direct experience, direct vision. Mind does not have the ability to have experience. It does not have vision. It has thoughts. Thoughts are transmitters of a certain amount of light, but in themselves they are not really embodiments of light or absolute light. So he has arrived at this knowledge that the dependence on the mind has to go. You see, in Sri Aurobindo's own personal existence, he had developed so much, learned so many studies in the intellectual world. so many languages, so many philosophies, so many things. And at the end he says he doesn't even think. When he writes, he doesn't think. Thought has been put aside. Light comes directly. You develop an instrument just to put it aside. That is the whole irony. It is not that we don't need to develop a mind. You develop the mind, and you realize its limits, and then you put it aside. So he has put this bright mind to one side, that mind which hangs between our thoughts and sight, absolute sight. Because otherwise the mind will doubt, it will question, it will say, is it so? Does it happen? Can it be like this? Can it be like that? The moment you have an experience and your mind comes forward and asks, what is happening? What are you seeing? You try to give an explanation, you have lost the contact with the divine, the direct contact. Therefore, the first condition for knowledge is all yogas, in Jnana Yoga especially, silence the mind, shut it down. That hangs between our thoughts and absolute sight. He found the occult cave, deep inside, cave. It is not anywhere above, it is within. What seems to be dark, deep, hidden, occult is hidden, secret, within us, in the heart. This is what the ancients called the cave of the heart. Hridayasya guhayam. Inside that cave, the flame, the presence, he hides. He doesn't really hide, the divine doesn't hide, but the divine has been neglected, forgotten, and therefore he has withdrawn as if into the background to say, I am not wanted here. He goes into the background. We don't pay attention to that inner inhabitant. We have not only one being we are not only one being, inside us is another being, and still another, and still another. And there are layers and layers in our existence. That inmost presence is deep within, deep hidden in that cave, where the treasures of truth are always there, where mind doesn't come forward to touch and examine and make all kinds of statements and philosophies. It's quiet. He found that presence that can guide. It is the presence that connects us with the divine, the psychic presence. It is not the soul only. The projection of the divine presence in our daily existence, deep inside. That is the leader, that is the guide, that will show the light. Near to the well of vision in the soul. Therefore, it is not the soul. It is the connecting power between our outer nature and the inmost soul. That light, that constant guidance, the dependence, it is the psychic. It is the divine who has come close to us in our, we might say, actual existence. Whereas in the soul does not participate. The soul remains undisturbed. The psychic participates. It walks, it moves. If you want its guidance, you call it, it will come. It will hold your hand and take you forward. It is the guide. It is like a mother power. It's a helping power, very similar to the mother. The Lord is there, quiet, conscious. The mother is the guide, the force that helps us, participates in our life, takes us forward. And she has just said so simply that when you have difficulty, you call me. Call me. Why don't you call me? Appelez-moi, appelez-moi. When you have a problem, and I can take you forward. So that is the guide. That is there in all. And he entered into that inmost presence, which is the soul, compared sometimes to a bird. The symbol of the soul in spiritual literature in India is often that of a bird. Near to the well of vision in the soul, and entered where the wings of glory brood. The presence is there, the light is there, the bird is there, brooding. Brooding doesn't originally mean thinking, as now you may say to brood is to think, to ponder. Brood is really what the kind of quiet, absolute, unmoving, we might say, like a mother bird sits absolutely unmoving over her young. She doesn't, that is a brooding bird. A bird who doesn't change her posture, because with her wings she covers the young, she protects them, she shelters them. And this is again what the mother power does. So in that inmost part of our being, that power is, presence is there. And entered where the wings of glory brood, in the silent space where all is forever known. Silent is not thought, it's absolute stillness. All is forever known because the eternal is there. The eternal who is without unconsciousness, who is without ignorance. That is part of us. Within us is that presence of light, deep inside, quiet, unmoving, the constant presence of the divine that does not really leave us ever. That is what the true seeker of knowledge has to. He has to not even seek anymore. He mustn't even seek knowledge. He becomes that. He has to become that. Indifferent to doubt and to belief, avid of the naked, real, single shock, he shore the cord of mind that ties the earth heart and cast away the yoke of matter's law. He is no longer guided by the mind. The activity of the mind is doubt, which is what spoils so many of our experiences. If you have doubt, you've lost that direct contact. You question, you believe or you don't believe, you want to find out and you don't find out. So he is totally free of that kind of mentality. You see the whole secret of what is modern mind. In the West it is known as the Cartesian mind, Descartes. And his theory is, I exist because I have a mind. How do I know that I have a mind? Because I can doubt myself. I can doubt, do I exist? Does my body exist or am I imagining it? Does this thing exist or am I imagining it? I'm not sure. But the only thing I can be sure is that I'm not sure. I doubt. And because I have a doubt, that means I'm a mental being, and because I'm a mental being, that means I am a clear-cut intellectual person. This is the Cartesian mind from Descartes. It's just the opposite, Mother says, it's just the very opposite. It spoils us, spoils our direct connection with the root. The mind is always ticking away. So he is totally indifferent to doubt and to belief. Sri Aurobindo has made a great deal of fun of Descartes. Avid. Avid is really hungry. Really, really hungry. As if he wants the single shock. The single shock is a direct contact. Just that. I want only that. Nothing but the direct connection, the direct contact. Almost, whether it is physical, whether it is spiritual, or the physical and spiritual are the same in this state. The spiritual is part of, physical is part of your spirit. This was what the seeker of knowledge we have in India, the example of Vivekananda. He was a seeker of knowledge. He had a scientific background. He was completely, you might say, an empirical person. He believed in actual facts. But he wanted absolute certitude whether there is the divine. And so he wanted to know, is there God? He would go from person to person. People are talking about God, Ishvara. Have you seen him? Have you seen him? If you can tell me directly you have seen him. And all the Pandits would say no. Only when somebody told him, yes, I have. I have. That's it. That absolute certitude which he got from Sri Ramakrishna. And then, naturally, the whole story of his life changed, the direction of his life changed, because this is the one thing he wanted. This is one of the aspects of empiricism. Empiricism is that which is based on physical experience. Material, he was a materialist. The materialist, the spiritual experience can be felt in the body. Can I see the body? The eyes are your body. Can I see him? Can I connect with him? Can I talk to him? He said, yes, you can. So that was it for him. The relationship between soul and body is not very distant. We have put two into opposite camps, soul and body. The body is part of the soul. The body is also our spirit. So he wanted this direct physical contact, avid, of the single, naked, real single shock. Naked. Naked of what? Because we have covered our innermost being with so many layers, so many coatings, thoughts, beliefs, preferences, likes, dislikes, faith or lack of it, all kinds of koshas, your emotional nature, your vital nature, your subtle physical nature. Each of us has many parts of our being between our outer surface nature and the inmost being. It's like having so many different, you might say, coverings. Remove all these coverings. We have wrapped ourselves up in all kinds of different coverings. He wanted just one direct contact, the direct contact with the soul. So he shore is past tense of to shear. Shear is to cut. So the cord of mind ties the earth heart. Earth heart is ready to fly, but the mind will say, this is impossible, don't try. Don't try to experience the divine who is above. There's one kind of world where he is in Swarga, some far-off world. You can't find him with your physical body. You leave your physical body behind and your soul can go and meet the divine. No. This is where the mind comes in the way. The mind has become the bar. He says, no, reason was the helper, reason is the bar. For quite a long time, reason is the helper. But after that, reason becomes a big barrier. And cast away the yoke of matter's law. Matter, body, life, mind. We are bound by these things. So it's not that he's given up his body. He has not given up his mind, he has not given up his life, but he is not yoked to them. He realizes body, life, mind are all expressions, instruments of the spirit. The opposition between matter and spirit is no longer there. The spirit, the soul, the consciousness manifests itself as much through the body, as through the mind, as through the life. It doesn't have to be somewhere far beyond. The body's rules bound not the spirit's powers. So these are part of certain yogas where with the power of consciousness you can start experiencing, changing the functions of the body. You know, the Ashtasiddhis, for instance, the yogas speak of. You can feel the sense of becoming extremely small, anima. You can become extremely light, laghima. You can become extremely heavy, garima. These senses, 8 such siddhis, they are felt in the body. The sense of becoming so light that you become weightless, the sense of levitation, or so heavy that you can become like an ordinary person can become strong, physically immovable like a rock. Or the different siddhis these are realizations of consciousness which can control the functionings of the life of the body. This is part of the Raja Yoga, and Sri Aurobindo achieved them. He practiced them. In the record of yoga, he does speak of them. He achieved them. So he cast away the yoke of matter's law. Usually we can't do them. You can't really rise above the ground. You can't become absolutely so immobile that nothing can shake you. All these things you can't, but he could. He arrived at these siddhis. He dared to live when breath and thought were still. Part of pranayama. You expand the field of consciousness in the being, or not just the body, in the world of life now. The world of life, the sense of breath. Life is breath, prana is life. And pranayam basically is the controlling of the life energy. What is today practiced everywhere and called yoga, yoga is not asanas, yoga is not postures, it is not sitting in the lotus position or standing on your head. It is actually controlling the functions, physical body, by allowing the body to become an instrument of universal energies, vaster energies of tranquility, of calm, of undisturbed light. If they can flow through my body, I become instrumental. The life force then fills my being. Some yogis can stay without breathing for a long time. That is why yogis in the olden days, who were Raja yogis, lived very long, because their hearts did not, there was the wear and tear on the heart is slowed down. They did not have to breathe so often. The weaker the heart, the faster it beats, I suppose, like a little bird's. It flutters. The stronger the heart, the quieter it beats. And so here, the yogis, that's why we have read stories, and they are not imaginary stories, of yogis who live in the mountains, who have lived for 200 years or 500 years and so on. Actual stories. I've read a book about a person who was traveling in the Himalayas. He was He wrote a lot of travel stories in Bengali. And he met a yogi in the snows. He was hardly clothed in the snow. He had no feeling of cold. He did not react. And he had a conversation with him. He was not even, did not study, he had never studied how to read and write or anything. But he was asking about how are things from the world you come from. So he said, how far back do you remember, sir? When did you come here? He said, I remember the Battle of Plassey. That was 1757. And after that he had left. And I read this book about 200 years later, 1957. And he was giving facts about the description of the world he had left behind to come there. And he was completely cut off and quiet. He did not look ancient, he did not look wrinkled, he did not look old. He was beautiful, quiet, undisturbed, detached from the world, unaffected by all these things. So these are experiences that the body can transmit, can contain, and can transmit forces and powers, because the same power that is at work in the universe, the same power that is evolving out of matter through life, through mind, is at work in all things at all times. And if the yogi is aware, if he has mastered these forces, it's like somebody who has learned to master certain powers. If I know how to master certain powers, if I know how to ride a horse, I can master the horse. I can make the horse run in the direction I want it to run. If I know how to do it, it is just a great deal of mastery is required. Therefore, one aspect of yoga is training. There is a great deal of training, of practice. This has to be done. But it is not mechanical, automatic practice of repetition of certain movements, of certain gestures. It is a change of consciousness. From within the person is changing. Or from within the person has not changed. This person I'm talking about had not changed. He was in constant contact with the eternal. Therefore, time for him had become something else.
This is from autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda.
This is Yogananda. Yes. It's very beautiful, this book. For them, time has a different meaning. They don't live in time, they live in eternity. But they have withdrawn from the world. This is not exactly the yoga of Sri Aurobindo, but it is part of it. He dared to live when the breath and thought were still. Thus could he step into that magic place which few can even glimpse with hurried glance, lifted for a moment from mind's laboured works and the poverty of nature's earthly sight. You see, our physical eyes are so poor. Even when we wear glasses, they're pretty poor. And mind, it's a laboured thing. The mind has to pass through a brain which is so complicated. The circumvolutions go up and down, the thoughts have to run through all these corridors of the mind, as Sri Aurobindo says. All this is replaced by something direct, straight, like a lightning, like an illumination, like a flash. All that the gods have learnt is their self-known. Self-known by identity. The gods have learnt because every god has his own special principle. One god doesn't know what the other god experiences. If Mother explains in one of her talks, if there is a god of love and he wants to know what the principle of power represents, he has for a while to come down on earth, to become a human evolving being. And then from that being who knew only love, he slowly grows into a being who can experience power or experience knowledge. In the end, he will say, power is knowledge, knowledge is love, love is beauty, but that will be only at the end. For a long time, each principle has its own separate identity, has its own separate path. And so each God has a separate path, has a separate direction. This is part of the world of the overmind. In the overmind, there's a sense of this. You might say every God has his own separateness. God of light, God of knowledge, God of power, God of beauty, God of joy. Each one has his own, to some extent, ego even. And they suffer sometimes. Because man can evolve, they can't. They remain stuck to their own embodiment. If they want to do what man is doing, then they have to become human. They give up their divinity, come down on earth, and that exactly is what man is also. A God who has come down and is greater because he has come down. Greater by the fall. We fall, we have come down into the darkness, we grow out of the darkness slowly towards the light.
Jhumur, what are they good for man? In what way can the gods help man?
But their
What are they
business
good
is
for?
not really to help, they just are.
So, but they're no use to man.
You see, they are emanations. The gods are all emanations. You know what emanations are? Projections.
Yes.
So the universal supreme is everything. It is like the sun. The sun has rays. Each ray is at its source linked to the sun. That is the supramental plane. But as it proceeds, the rays disperse. They become wider and wider. And in the same ray that comes down to the earth is not as bright as it is in its source. They are not made to help man, they just are. Man can get some illumination from them. If he knows that he turns to that particular God which you have a certain affinity for. You know, you feel that each of us has a separate God, as Mother says, all of us have a particular affinity. You may have a particular affinity of connecting with the origin through a particular God. You say, through beauty I can connect with the Supreme. I cannot read philosophy. I cannot understand Sri Aurobindo. But I can really connect with the Divine by giving service to the Divine. I love the Divine, I can surrender to the Divine, but I don't understand anything. That's all right. At a certain stage, this is exactly what we are. We don't know anything, but we connect with that particular emanation with whom we find a special connection. Just like human love. You love a person because you have found an affinity. Not that the person you love is the most beautiful person in the world or the most perfect person who is perfect. But you say, I can relate with this person. There is something that makes me feel more complete. So there are certain gods who are like that. And so we often have legends also, where the gods and the humans connect. There was an age that is part of the Satya Yuga, according to the ancient mystic stories, that the human beings used to relate to certain gods. And relate in the sense they would have friendship. They would have a certain kind of, truly friendship with them. They would feel at home with them. A particular kind of God. And there were all these intermediary gods also. These were the demigods, like the Gandharvas, or all these forces. Art. Gandharvas are the forces of art. Through art you can feel something. You can't feel anything about, experience the divine through your own meditation because you're not capable of meditation. such a profound meditation. But you see a beautiful piece of art, and it is just, it completely draws you into it. Teaches you how to identify yourself with an object of perfect beauty. And that is a divine experience. So these are all helps that are there, these gods. Therefore the Kinnaris, the Gandharvas, the Apsaras, they're representing the gods of music, of dance, of harmony. They're always traveling between earth and sky. They're supposed to be constantly traveling between earth and sky, connecting with man. They are like helpers on the way. It is as if the divine has, as if projected us out of himself, pushed us down into the darkness, but he has sent helpers. So you can take the help of something. There are people who, when they really open to music, they enter into another world which they would never have understood otherwise. It can make you break your boundaries, your limits through. That is why Mother's emphasis on music, on painting, on all the aspects of harmony, for instance, Sri Aurobindo on poetry, all these things that raise us from our most commonplace way of being and become something else. We don't have to enter into some kind of a monastery. The whole world is a monastery if you know how to make use of it. Because you can get into meditation by just looking at a wave in the ocean, the way it rises and crashes, and then what does this wave do? It blends with the beach, it blends with the soil and then goes back to its mother. So this constant uniting with earth, with matter, play of forces, all these things, they are there. And that is part of the Vedic vision. All natural forces were symbolic of gods. Gods in the sense that all natural expressions, whether it is fire, whether it is water, whether it is wind, all these things are actually expressive of universal powers. So they're not there to help you, but you are receptive to that, you feel helped. You feel helped. Like food. For some, art is their food. They feel fed, enriched. You feel enriched by something beautiful. You feel richer. Your spirit is happier. That's enough. That's all right. Our thought is that the gods are there to help you. They are not there to help you. Help you in what sense? To give you what you want? Help you by telling you stop wanting. It is not by satisfying your desire.
No, that Jhumur is that like in Mahabharata, like Kunti had 5 children, right? Then Karna was born. So now what?
Karna was born before the others.
So what does that mean?
Ah,
So the god and Kunti were.
Kunti is earth, no? The sun comes to her. But the idea, the mental, moral notions come. And it is as if she has done something wrong because she bears a child.
No, that not in that sense, but how to, like what Divya asked, God. You said gods have affection, or what I understand. So
You have a
affection was
particular relationship with a particular principle. So something in this earthly being, Kunti was who? She was Sri Krishna's aunt. She was her evolution was unknown to her. Her being had evolved sufficiently for her to be receptive to the divine light. That is what happened to her. After that, she did not bear 5 children. After that, she had 3. She had 3 children. And then there were 2 others. But this is the age when the Mahabharata comes and it has come to tell us that man has a deep-rooted inner connection with the universal forces. The sun god, always left his stamp on Karna. No, he had that kavach, so nothing could touch him really, nothing could harm him. But outwardly it was looked upon as this is a young maiden who has not got married and she has a child before marriage, and therefore he shall become an outcast. So she gives up the child. But this is where the mind comes in. You receive something and then you say it will be misunderstood or disliked, and so you give up. That often we do that. You have experiences of the divine and you're afraid to talk about it because you say nobody will believe me or I will be ill-treated for this. And that is where the human mind, the human standards, they come in the way.
The mind cannot contain that highest.
We can't. It's difficult to contain. But there was a certain sense of extreme purity. That was the whole thing is based on the sense of purity. Which is there. The whole story of even Satyavati and you have...
Ahilya.
Huh?
Ahilya.
No, that is in the Ramayana. But it is Satyavati in the Mahabharata and Bhishma and all that whole background, that whole story.
Those 3 sisters.
Because this is also, these stories were not only about the individual. They were the story for the whole collectivity. The epics are for a race, and the race has to pass through different cycles. That cycle for the race, which has to move out of a particular way of life to another way of life. It's not simply one individual making a personal choice. Today we talk of people. These are not people. They are not individuals. They represent certain universal standards at a given stage of human development.
In a way we can say that Mahabharata, that age was to go beyond the moral principles.
Yes, absolutely. The Ramayana is based on much more moral. The Mahabharata breaks down the moral rules. It's the age of the mysticism that is
Now that
starting.
you say it right, all those examples, Satyavati also, Kunti,
Exactly.
those 3 sisters, Ambika, Ambalika,
Yeah, exactly.
Yas coming, all those stories are that.
So these stories, actually it is not about individuals. Today's stories are about people, about individuals. One person, another person, they have personal connections or they have enmity, they fight. But here it's not that, it's an age that is changing. A universe that is, a new world is changing. The old world is going away, the new world is coming in. So it is a clash of 2 worlds. The old ways of thinking have to be replaced by something new. And there will be a clash, there is always a battle. Every epic is about a battle. That is there. Okay?